Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome to Theatre from the Streets.
You know Gotham is in jail.
Can I take my blindfold off?
A prostitution ring?
Danger is what we were born in, lived with, and will die from.
Why did they kill him? If all he wanted was to defend the homeland.
Nobody's gonna say anything?
Our motherland is in a mess.
The march of authoritarianism around the world.
147, Auschwitz style.
They are nice, kind, and powerful. They are terrorists.
State violence or state oppression of the shrinking of democracy.
The reality is much more ugly. Shooting 24 hours.
Preying upon the weakest.
The oppression that we are living in our countries in the Middle East is a pandemic.
Reducing the other into sort of second-class citizens, ultimately getting rid of them altogether.
We are living in a country where intimidation and censorship are the rule.
Artists are being muzzled and actually thrown into jail without bail.
Thousands of children and women that you derive a pleasure out of tormenting them.
When we give voice to the mothers, we reach a deeper understanding of what the sense of belonging is all about. Culture, a way of speaking, eating, dressing, moving, and behaving. The origin of our belonging to a land comes from our mothers.
Venezuela is a mother-centered country. Women don't really have that much power if you think about kind of political positions, but they hold society together, hold families together, and that they're responsible for so much kind of emotional labor. And they're very much at the heart of the home, and then kind of by extension, the heart of the community. And it's very much the women who are the ones who are having to deal with the loss of their children, the loss of their homes, the loss of their families, despite everything, giving people that strength. Even in the worst of situations, those two mothers at the hospital were kind of trying to still reassure each other.
Why did they kill him? If all he wanted was to defend the homeland.
Friend, if I could, I would hug you. But I can't even breathe.
No, my sweet lady, don't die on me, girl. I'm devastated, but I give you my hand. You're not going to die alone. I'm here with you.
Tell my son I love him.
No, please, don't die on me. No, please. Breathe slowly, please. Please. This lady is dying. Anybody help, please? God damn it! Damn it, help! So many good people died. Only those assholes who are killing us are going to be left.
Through seeing that kind of really emotional center, that we get people to understand what's going on and kind of just how much these women in Venezuela have to take on top of everything else of kind of dealing with shortages and dealing with violence and insecurity, that they're also responsible for looking after their families.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sorry. Excuse me. Me? To work. No, I'm going to my job. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to my job. No, you are wrong. You are wrong. If you want to protest, do so, but do not screw up everybody else.
My son? Something happened to my son? It is confusing. I hear street, mob, dagger, fired, injured. In front of me, still damp from the glass cleaner, the foggy image of Lando saying goodbye.
Due to the fall and the blows, the sound changes. The last thing I heard is fucking nigger. Later, a continuous whistle. People talk, move their mouths, and the whistle is all I hear. Let me leave. All I want to see is my daughter. Then, the first stab. The steel enters. Something hot pierces my body. It is scary to see the blood flow. I think I'll be left without a drop.
On the television, they show images of a protest. There is a dark man with pain on his skin, calling for help, howling in pain. He's my son, but no, it can't be my son. Hours pass before they let me see him at the hospital. I do not recognize him. How are you going to recognize your child amongst the mass of stabbed and charred meat? I am by his side all night. I don't want to close my eyes. I relive his agony. I have a mirror in the range. I spend hours looking at it. I don't lose hope of seeing Nando reflected in it again. It doesn't matter that it's blurry.
The pain of a mother that is facing the loss of her son. So it's something that is happening in a quotidian basis in Venezuela. There are so many mothers suffering.
She's in. Oh. Jamila is going to be so happy.
Please don't hang up. The number I'm dialing belongs to my daughter. I'm just looking for her.
Of course I want her to have a better future, and there's no way she will ever get one in this shithole.
Yeah, we still have to take some pictures and then wait and see if she's selected for the modeling job. But, Señora Esperanza, do you really think it is fine to dress her up in a bathing suit when she doesn't even swim?
I haven't heard from her in 3 days. She left for Trinidad by plane with her new passport and all, with Señora Esperanza and a group of girls hired by a very important advertising agency down there. In all, 13 girls. And how would you know that there are no advertising agencies over there? I still don't understand which boat and what you're talking about. It's a small Samsung. The screen is cracked at the right bottom corner. It has a pink cover. Yes, that's the one. It has an Apple sticker on the back. That's the one. What list? My daughter has nothing to do with the people on that list, I'm sure. She wasn't on that boat. I would have known. A prostitution ring? Are you a policeman? I'm very sorry, but I don't understand. I have to go where? How the hell am I supposed to get all the way down to Wedia? Identified the body?
The prostitution that is going on in Venezuela now because of the poverty we're going through. So there are a lot of very young girls that are traveling to Trinidad from Wiria to get a new life, to get an opportunity, and they mistake a model agency and it's a prostitution web.
It's been a very long concern of mine what is happening, not necessarily with the prostitution rings and poverty inducing young girls to do it for the sake of surviving, but the people that prey upon that. Sex trafficking is one of the worst things that I believe is happening in my country right now, because it pours down all the way to the basics of preying upon the weakest, which is basically what I believe happens, politically speaking, here.
The reality of the daily living, its tragedy, its dreams are closed, and not because we meant to be like this. It's just a situation where democracy is lost when a group of people think that they have the right to control a majority and just impose it by force.
Did you get gas for the car?
Look, I was the 147 today in the line. And I got there like 4:10 in the morning.
It isn't in the cars that put the numbers on?
Well, that's another horror story. At noon, since the line wasn't moving, I had to talk to the military and tell them I need to get the medicines for my kid. I better not. He asked me for the prescription, for the medical report. I even have to show him a picture of Javi. He checked my phone. He took it and checked Instagram, email, everything. At the end, he allowed me to go, but first he marked me. 147, Auschwitz style.
You don't want to listen. With my Spanish passport, we can get your nationality. You are my husband, and Javier is your son. Think about your son. The health system over there is pretty good, and it's free.
Mi amor, I think about my son and about the children of many others. If we all leave, who's going to take care of those who goes to the Pérez Carreño or the University Hospital?
Thanks for attending this extraordinary meeting, especially to those who never come to the monthly condominium board meetings. Thank you for being here. Here is Pino, my brother, you know him, who, thank God, didn't almost die this morning, stuck in the elevator. All of us here have suffocated in the elevator every time the lady from the 2B compulsively decides to disinfect it with liters of Clorox, and no one had said anything.
If everyone knows where to get hold of oxygen, please.
Because even that, it's missing in this country. It's okay. Oxygen. This is horrible. Now, Pino, it's irreversibly affected. We have to report Mrs. Josefina. Please, for how long do we have to continue putting up with this? There are several people here who know that Mrs. Josefina is in cahoots with her friend who works at the pharmacy. They're trafficking medications and they're selling them illegally inside the apartment. getting rich from the illness of the poor. One more? Or we all come to a vote. Who is in favor to report this lady and get her out of the building?
Told you, Carmela. They're afraid. Josefina is in with the government.
Nobody's gonna say anything?
The situation of the medication in Venezuela it's quite dire, quite dire in the not only with the medicine are not available, if some of them are the expensive. It's interesting to point out that Venezuela is the country in the world with the highest number of GoFundMe. People are resorting to GoFundMe to finance their problem, their medicines.
This is based outside Venezuela. So that means that you for example, Melody, you can open a fund to help anybody in Venezuela. People puts money. Most of the people that puts money, it's in foreign currency. That money it's not going to come directly to the country. It comes indirectly to the people that needs it.
GoFundMe works in a personal level because we need money. Diana and Carlos were showing his salary as an ambassador retired is $4 a month. So, but the prices of the hub is the same prices as in New York. How come can people just go to the market and get the food? How can they go to the hospitals?
You see very compatible things that you can read from the pieces of daily life. When I was seeing the story of the elevator and the intoxication, that's the government intoxicates people every day. And then they go and deal with drugs. And then you see the doctor, with this dilemma, do I leave or do I stay? No, not everybody can leave the country.
We are over 6 million people who have left Venezuela. The estimates are that we may arrive at 7 million very soon.
There is so many people fleeing the country, just walking, because it's not a matter to have the money off for buying an airplane ticket, for example, or not even a bus ticket.
I've witnessed the death of several of my children. Some died in my arms, others died far away, but the grief is the same. It knows no distance. Because I am more than a political crisis, more than a tragedy, more than the crime in pages on the newspaper. Whoever has seen the darkest part of the night knows that the sun is coming. I am the death, I am the death I am. Yo soy la muerte, yo soy la muerte. La muerte soy, la muerte soy. Yo soy la muerte, yo soy la muerte. La muerte soy, la muerte soy. Even the saddest lyrics are set to the most joyful music. Even when we are dying, we don't give up. That is what I am. Sorry. Thank you for listening to me.
Today, I resolve to take a breath and begin. Focus on what I really want, slowly, surely, and patiently. What I must not abandon is my hope.
she has never ridden a bike in Gaza. No woman has ridden a bike in Gaza. She got up, I think, at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning before Gaza's up. And she had help with moving the bike to a place where she could film and have people help her film. And that was the only way that she could ride her bike. And I remember when we were talking about it, she said, all I ever wanted to do is to ride a bike. And she rode her bike. So that's kind of a small slice of a very small dream that is quite difficult to do in Gaza. It's impossible to do. Nobody's riding a bike in Gaza. I think the guys are riding some bikes, merchants, people who sell things. But that's the story of Jamelia, her bike, and the sea in Gaza.
Women, they are not only the occupied and the second citizen, they are even the third or the fourth citizen of a country that is oppressing one after the other. So there are multiple oppression happening.
You know that I hate to stay alone. So why you don't come? I feel the night is so long and cold, and in any minute he could break the door and get me. I know. I tried to remind myself what you taught me, that we are in 2021 and 4 years has passed since then, and there is no way he could get me. But my body doesn't understand that. Every time I hear a noise outside, my heart begins to beat so fast and I feel I can't breathe and my body starts to have the same pain. And I began to see the bruises again at the same places. When I'm afraid, my body goes back to the pain like it's now. By the way, I used your concealer and makeup because mine is done. It's very good and covers very well. Can you believe that sometimes I see him in all the faces of the men around me? The taxi driver, the bus driver, the falafel man, the bank employee, everyone. Sometimes I feel he's hiding behind all the faces and could appear and attack me in any minute. You know all of that. How do you leave me alone?
When the occupier is oppressing everybody, the man is oppressing the woman as well. And so it is multi-layered in that sense. And that's why it was important to really show or raise the voice of a story of a woman and her body and the pain that is registered on her body and in her memory as well.
They broke into the house brutally, and I was standing there in the hall opposite the door, waiting for them. Suddenly, I found myself surrounded by dozens of them, their weapons pointed at me. I shouted at them, "Why do you break into homes every time at night when we are sleeping? What do you want from us? My husband is arrested by you. Was it not enough that you arrested him and stormed our home 2 weeks ago?" Their leader yelled, "Go, get everyone in the house and bring them out here." I answered disapprovingly, "Why should I bring them? What do you want from them? Their father is imprisoned, and the children could not get over the shock of the previous incursion. Damn you." First, I went to my autistic son. "My love, we want to go outside and sit until they search the house." He gave no response. He was in a state of terror and convulsion. He clung to the blanket and refused to go out with me. One soldier shouted, "Come on, get him out, or else we will pull him out." I told him, "This is a sick boy who is still waking up. I will be patient with him until he is fully awake and able to understand. Isn't it enough that you are invading their sleep in the middle of the night? You also want them to respond quickly? God is greater than you." I sat next to him and touched his head and called on him, "In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful." I held his hand so that he could calm a little. Then he came out to the hall with me. I went to the second room. They took my eldest son out of the room and surrounded my children while they were sleeping. I asked them to stay away from them and carried them one by one and took them to the hall. We all sat in the same place, and they pointed their weapons at us, as though they were standing in front of another army.
The story of Haneen, the event that happened to her and her family, I said, this story needs to be translated and needs to be put internationally, because that really projects exactly what is happening day in, day out, not only for Haneen, but for so many people who had been under continuous and constant attack, whether in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. These days, it's madness.
We're fighting politics, we fight occupation. I mean, it's a very destruction for any young people to grow up in this kind of situation. They are really facing unknowing future that nobody knows what's gonna happen. I'm afraid really to marry, even as a Palestinian Arabic culture. Still, I'm not married, and I'm thinking thousands of times where I went to bring my child in Palestine. Nobody knows what's the ideal plan or program to make people in Palestine seeing any future or trust anything.
We try to talk about life in Gaza, but not always in a tragedy way. We try to talk about life in Gaza sometimes in sardonic way or sarcastic way. Bassem and Samar are at a restaurant. Bassem, you know, Samar, when I look at you, I don't know what happens to me. I feel like I'm flying. I swear I fly. Imagine me flying far. Look at the world from above. During sunset, that is in your eyes. Phone rings, interrupting. Bassem answers the phone. Bassem, hi, mother. What? All the saving is gone? Why? Who? The telecommunications company. What bill? The phone bill? And why should I pay for that? They have a court decision against you. Oh, goodness. The court gave you 1 week to pay. Okay, mother. Okay, I'm ready. Bye. Bassem looks back at Summer. Bassem, sorry, that was my mother. But it's good that she called to make me ponder about you again. Samur, when I see you, I feel like I'm flying. You know what? I don't want to fly anymore. When I see you, I feel that I own the world. The whole world becomes mine. Even though I only have 10 shekels in my pocket to pay the drink, but I still feel I have the world with you. Bassem phone rings again. Bassem, I will keep it silent after I take this one. Hello. Hello, sister. Why are you crying? What should I do? The police are coming to take your husband? He has debts to pay? Well, calm down. Well, tell him in prison he will find free food and free Wi-Fi. I'm not joking, sister. Mother was just telling me about the bills that must be paid to the telecommunications company. And by the way, we owe the electricity company a huge amount of money, although the electricity comes only 4 hours a day. I thank God that you are with me, because when I see you, I feel that you are my homeland. You are my country.
Such a good one, such a sarcastic one, to show that even love, the simplest thing that can happen between any two youth, is quite impossible in a setting that we are living.
When the war ends, I will not look for the grave of my beloved and will not write poetry for her. I will not pretend that I left her because I didn't like her. I will criticize her hairstyle and her way of talking. It wouldn't have lived with all those martyrs in it. When the war ends, I will go back to my normality. I will delete the names of my friends who died from the cell phone, will remove their pictures from the album, even those which I am in with them. I will forget their names and replace them with those who are alive. I will free myself from their gifts, their paintings, their poems, and their songs. And it's fine if they take a part of my heart, for a life with a quarter of a heart is possible.
The place of women in war anywhere, that whether you are the winning side or the losing side, it is invariably the woman who is sacrificed. In India, we have traditions of entire communities of women having to commit suicide. Women of the warrior caste committing suicide because their husbands have lost or their army has lost. And so as not to fall into the hands of conquerors, thousands of women commit suicide. If you're on the other side, then armies come and rape you.
Draupadi Mehan was apprehended at 6:53 p.m. It took an hour to get her to camp. Questioning took another hour exactly. No one touched her. And she was allowed to sit on a canvas camp stool. At 8:57, Sena Nayak's dinner hour approached, and saying, "Make her. Do the needful." He disappeared.
In the muddy moonlight, she lowers her lightless eye, sees her breasts, and understands that, indeed, she's been made up right. Her breasts are bitten raw, the nipples torn. How many? 4, 5, 6, 7. Draupadi fixes her red eyes on the tent, says,
"Come, I'll go."
The guard pushes the water pot forward. Draupadi stands up. She pours the water down on the ground, tears a piece of cloth with her teeth. Seeing such strange behavior, the guard says she's gone crazy and runs for orders. He can lead the prisoner out, but doesn't know what to do if the prisoner behaves incomprehensibly. So he goes to ask his superior. The commotion is as if the alarm had sounded in a prison. Sena Nayak walks out surprised and sees Draupadi naked, walking toward him in the bright sunlight with her head high. The nervous guards trail behind. "What is this?" He's about to cry but stops. Draupadi stands before him, naked. Draupadi's black body comes even closer. Draupadi shakes with an indomitable laughter that Sena Nayak simply cannot understand. Her ravaged lips bleed as she begins laughing. Draupadi wipes the blood on her palm and says in a voice that is as terrifying, sky-splitting, and sharp as a ululation,
"What's the use of clothes?
You can strip me, but how can you clothe me again?
Are you a man?"
She looks around and chooses the front of Sena Nayak's white bushert to spit a bloody gob at and says,
"There's not a man here that I should be ashamed."
I will not let you put my cloth on me.
What more can you do? Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me. Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me.
Come on, counter me.
Draupadi pushes Sena Nayak with her two mangled breasts. And for the first time, Sena Naik is afraid to stand before an unarmed target. Terribly afraid.
People who are well acquainted with Mahabharata, the epic tale from India, would be aware that Draupadi is the character who is at the center of this epic battle. She is the wife of the 5 brothers, Pandavas. When Pandavas lose all their kingdoms in a game of gambling to their cousins Kauravas, and at one point of time they put at stake their wife, which is Draupadi. The Kauravas are trying to defile Draupadi in the court. It's a great metaphor for how, after millennia of the story being there in India, the fate of women has really not changed. Literally, 3,500 years, nothing really has happened, has changed for the women of this country. Draupadi is every woman that you meet on street. I do not want to have one person play that character. I want to have multiple actors play that character, because the point is that whichever woman you run into is the Draupadi in this today's country.
And as Danish said, I think rightly said, that every woman you meet had maybe faced some kind of molestation, maybe at house, maybe walking on the street, or some place in her life.
We all have our own blindfolds, you and I, ones that we choose to wear as we please, closing our eyes on that which we do not wish to see, closing our eyes on the war that looms on the horizon. A woman, a Kshatriya woman, birds, weapons, and honor, armor and titles, clad in royal robes of the Kshatriya code. Woman, woman, a Kshatriya woman must comply in the plan and make her Kshatriya man, her flesh and her blood, lost in a flood of chariots and horses, armor and titles, clad in royal robes of the Kshatriya code. Woman,
the visual image of the feet and the hands in the context of female, right? I mean, the womb, just that image is so striking. It's not what one would expect from a piece that's ultimately about women warriors. So that I loved that juxtaposition.
this time of the pandemic for me has been one of really going in, you know. And so the image that came to me was the lament of the womb, because we are going through this period of overwhelming collective grief. The main character that I present is Gandhari, who is the iconic empress with a blindfold from the Mahabharata. So just the idea of the blindfold, and don't we all have blindfolds that we conveniently tie when there's something that we don't wish to see? Maybe a way of protecting ourselves, maybe a way of finding a way ahead. The piece about the Kshatriya woman being kind of imprisoned in the codes of your own making, or the codes of society, and that have been put on you.
We have this deplorable caste system in India. There are people dying every day for becoming uppity when coming from a lower caste. There are people being stoned to death. There are people being hacked to death on a daily basis in India just because of the accident of their birth. But if you ask the educated middle class, they will say we do not discriminate. And I think this is another blindfold that is so conveniently worn and which terrorizes a good 50-60% of our society.
There are so many people who don't even are blind to the fact that we are in a regime which is so violent and so dictatorial.
This act in the Indian Constitution called the Armed Forces Special Power Act gives overwhelming power to the army. There's a lot of violence against women. This is captured in the story, Draupadi, which we presented, was also the reason which triggered the great protest which took place in front of the Assam Rifles, where the local women actually went and bare themselves with this kind of flag saying, Indian Army, come and rape us.
After this brutal rape and killing of this young woman by the military, the women rose to protest. This is a desperate time. A desperate time calls for desperate measures. And we will do this naked protest. And for me, as a dancer, within the dance medium, picking up the big drums is one of those things that I was never allowed to do. Even today, 2019, 2020, when they see women playing drums, there are articles in newspapers in Manipur. Why are we allowing women to play drums? So for me as an artist, that picking up the drum was that picking up something completely forbidden, I would never be allowed to do, and jumping and turning with it.
It's a through line that we've seen in the work from Palestine and Venezuela as well, is the role of mothers and trying to deal with authoritarian states.
The responses by mothers has been very important in actually providing a radical consciousness to protest movements. The sheer shock when naked women went up as mothers and challenged the state. I mean, the shock that ran through the country, in some sense, opened the eyes of not only the state, hopefully, but also of the other parts of India, which often, ignore what is happening in various parts of the Northeast.
I think India was on a brink of something quite revolutionary when the lockdown struck. There were women-led protests.
They are unraveling it all.
Grabbing land, mountain, river, forest.
They want to tower above it all.
Powerful and alienated from all.
In the guise of policies, in the garb of schemes, in the veil of plans.
Under the cover of the tear gas, under the cover of the baton, lifting the cover of the guns.
So we learned to fight.
Yes, we learned to fight and we learned to sing.
गाँव छोड़ब नाही, जंगल छोड़ब नाही, माय माटी छोड़ब नाही, लड़ाई छोड़ब नाही, माय माटी छोड़ब नाही.
Won't give up our village, won't give up our land, won't give up our jungle, won't give up our fight.
माय माटी छोड़ब नाही, लड़ाई छोड़ब नाही, माय माटी छोड़ब नाही, लड़ाई छोड़ब नाही.
It's always the powerful, in one sense or the other, who wants control over resources and who wants to create a monopoly of one kind. So the mines come in, the contractors enter, the politicians allow it, the entire institution and mechanism starts working towards making it happen. Local people also some of them start looking at it as an opportunity for survival, for earning, for livelihood. And there are others in the same vicinity who are saying that this is destruction and this is not something that can be allowed. And this dilemma and this crossroad that communities that have been living together for generations suddenly have different positions now. And there are two different groups, and the dynamics there is changing constantly. This is happening not just in communities, even in families, the aspirations are changing. And then how does one deal with all of that? How does one talk to each other about it? Because the entire environment outside the family, within the family, which is affecting each other, is such that you are holding two different positions, which are extremes, and you don't see dialogue happening, no conversation happening.
We're not giving any of it a thought, so coming down to very basics of roti, kapda, makan, which means food, clothing, shelter. So this is what we want, and this is what we need. And to get that, what do we unleash on the environment, and in turn on ourselves and on the world at large? And to also look at what is this anthropocentric view of life that we seem to have just bought into hook, line, and sinker, and it seems to have blinded us to everything else. And therefore, the look at the butterfly in terms of its fragility, and in terms of its value, and also in terms of how we are as fragile as a butterfly too. We are also migrating, and there are problems with that. There are problems of disparity which don't seem to be getting solved.
Bees gone, elephants homeless, tribals ousted, knowledge systems forgotten, mother tongues lost. And yet I know it's possible. A truly beautiful life. But you and I, we'll have to turn around, turn back from human doings to human beings.